7 days a week. DJ Dirty John.
It's Karen Z with Rainier Avenue Radio App.
Sergio Cool. Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Rainier Avenue Radio.world. We got you covered. Global impact, global presence.
Broadcast. Welcome to Rainier Avenue Radio.world and our weekly coverage of the impact of the communities. Continuation of our series. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us again here. And then again, now we are aware of the fact that we are, and more folks listening internationally at one point.
Những người cần cẩn trọng nếu quý vị cao niên hoặc ở bất kỳ độ tuổi nào nhưng có những vấn đề về sức khỏe, quý vị sẽ có khả năng nhiễm bệnh cao nếu mắc phải bệnh nghiêm trọng phát từ COVID-19. Nhưng tin vui là quý vị có thể thực hiện những biện pháp để bảo vệ bản thân và người thân. Rửa tay thường xuyên, ở nhà trừ khi quý vị cần thức ăn, thuốc hoặc dịch vụ y tế. Nếu quý vị cần phải rời khỏi nhà, hãy đứng xa người khác 6 feet, tránh những người đang bệnh. Lập kế hoạch, nhận diện và nói chuyện với người có thể chăm sóc quý vị nếu quý vị bệnh. Trữ vật tư như là thuốc men hoặc đồ tạp hóa, hoặc tìm cách để người khác có thể đem chúng đến cho quý vị. Và hãy nhớ mang khẩu trang hoặc vải che mặt khi ở cạnh người khác. Để biết thêm thông tin, vui lòng liên hệ Seattle King County Public Health, cơ quan sức khỏe cộng đồng King County 477-3977.
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Don't forget to log on www.rainieravenue radio.world.
Welcome to Rainier Avenue Radio. This is Afternoons with Monique, recording live in Seattle, Washington, every Thursday at 1 p.m.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today we have the pleasure of having 3 special guests from the Asian American Pacific Islander community in Philanthropy. John Woo, Brandon Hadi, and Juliet Lee. Welcome to the show, everybody. Can you hear me?
Hey, Monique. Hey. Thanks for having us.
Hi, guys. There you are.
Good to see you.
Good to see you guys. Thanks for joining us on our show. You're on Rainier Avenue Radio, and I'm Monique Lee, your host. Today, I'd like to first introduce the 3 of you who I had the pleasure to meet John Woo and Juliet Lee a few years back and get to know AAPIP mission. So John, will you wave? Okay, so everybody have their name tags on. Hi, John. Hi, Juliet. Hi, Brandon.
Hi, Monique.
Hi. So the show is 27 minutes long, and I would like to get speedy on the introduction of APIP as well as your role with the agency. So Brandon, why don't you start with who you are and how long you've been with APIP and a little bit introduction background, please.
Sure. Well, I'm from Seattle. Lived there for about 18 years before I moved to New York for grad school. And then now I'm in Texas because of COVID. But I'm a program manager at APIP. I work closely with the chapters. So Seattle chapter co-chairs here, Juliet and John. Work closely with them as well as the other 10 chapters that are part of APIP's regional chapter network. I've been part of the organization for about a year and a half now, back when we had just 4 staff members, and we've grown quite a bit since then.
Wow.
Yeah.
4 staff to start?
Yeah.
I know you guys started in 1990, according to your website. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. And by the way, I heard that you are a Columbia recent graduate from the MSW or Master of Social Work program. Is that when did that happen?
That was May 2020. So we didn't have a real graduation. I just had a Zoom graduation. We had this Minecraft thing where like virtual people walked for us, but that's the best that we could do, which was unfortunate.
Oh. Well, congratulations. Columbia is a great university.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Now tell us about APIP. What is it? I know the abbreviation, but why don't you tell the audience what it stands for and what you guys do there?
Sure. I think all of us can talk a little bit about what APIP does, and then also Juliet and John, you could talk about yourself as well. I could just take a first stab since I work as part of the national organization. So APIP has been around for 30 years. It stands for Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders in Philanthropy. And it first started because there weren't enough Asian Americans in philanthropy to fill just one banquet table at a conference. And the folks at that table thought, well, if we can't fill a table, we need to do something different about having more folks at this table, literally, in philanthropy. And hopefully with having more representation on foundation staff, that we can influence grant making so that our communities can get more funding too. We know that our communities are underserved. So the theory of change back then was to have more people in grant making positions to move more money to our communities.
That's awesome. How about Julie? You start. Tell us who you are, and how long have you been in philanthropy?
Yeah, thank you so much, Monique, for allowing us to be on this show. I've never done a radio show, so this is exciting.
Well, that's the first for everything, right?
Yeah, this is fun. This is different. My name is Juliet. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm based here in Seattle, born and raised. Definitely been on lockdown here and haven't gone anywhere. So, philanthropy. I don't even know where to begin because there's so much. And I guess I was just like thinking, what is the truth behind philanthropy, and what is philanthropy? And so I wanted to kind of just talk about first just the definition, because a lot of people are like, yeah, well, what does that mean? And so just like the literal definition of philanthropy is the love of humanity, right? It's the love for people. And I would say traditional philanthropy is, it moves really, really slow, right? We know we're living in a time of pandemic right now where we're seeing wildfires and Black and brown communities being shot, just like all of these communities being impacted, and yet philanthropy decides who is philanthropy accountable to. That's the question, right? And in reality, philanthropy is not accountable to anybody, right? We don't have anyone that we're accountable to. So I would love to talk to you and this crew about what decolonizing philanthropy means, what does our work actually look like on the ground, and just kind of have a real conversation about that.
That would be great. And we have the show for that. I haven't had, let me think. I don't think I've had any philanthropist people on the show so far. We had a lot of academic, a lot of professional, political, and legal folks, but we haven't had anyone in your sphere come and chat with our audience. So we love to explore and learn, especially Asian American community. Would love to learn what you guys do to support the community. John, hi, John.
Hi, Monique. Thank you for joining us and inviting us to your podcast. I'm really excited to see how this goes. This is, like Juliet, this is my first one as well.
Yeah. So we are a digital broadcast program, radio program, and it's a little bit different than a podcast in that it is not pre-recorded, it's live, and it has a digital video component. You can see now radio all move toward audio and video. Yeah, John, I met you like a couple years ago at an AAPIP program, right? And there were a lot of ladies there, and John was the only guy there usually. So I usually refer to John as the ladies and John, a very special, unique position in the Asian American philanthropy world. But John, you are based in Seattle. Tell us a little bit about your background and how long have you been with APIP and the philanthropy sphere?
Yeah, so I'm a first generation Chinese born. My family immigrated here many years ago. So I've been in the Seattle area for over 30 years. I got involved with APIP because, my understanding of the Seattle community and this is a very diverse community with over 14% of the population in Seattle is Asian.
Really?
And I've seen so much change over the course of my 30 plus years here, and I wanted to be part of a community like APIP to help influence and diversify the philanthropy world. So that's how I got involved, and I've been a APIP co-chair for the last 5 years, I believe.
For the Seattle chapter?
For the Seattle chapter, yes.
Right. Okay. So that is a little bit about the general areas that I like to introduce to the audience about what you guys do. So back to Brandon. Brandon, can you tell us what you guys have been doing during COVID and, during the last, I haven't had a chance to meet you in person, but I know that you are, what's your title at APIP right now?
Program manager.
Okay. And as part of that role, what do you do for the program? What exactly do you do for the program?
Sure. Well, since we're a small team, like I said, we were at just 4 people. Now we're, I think, breaking 6. We do a lot of different things. So my title is program manager, and I work closely with the chapters like the Seattle chapter and then 10 others that we have across the nation. And we're trying to conceptualize our chapter network as one national coordinated program, which in the past wasn't how APIP operated. Each of the chapters worked in their own silo and did place-based advocacy, but we didn't conceive of it as a national program, and we're moving in that direction currently. So my role is to be a liaison between our national organization and the chapters to coordinate our work around the national priorities that APIP has, and to really rally the chapters around that work. So we're not taking the place of the work that's already happening in the chapters. There is local advocacy that has to happen, and each chapter has unique issues also. So we're not trying to take the place of that, but more to coordinate the efforts nationally, because we know that we're stronger together.
Right.
Yeah.
In the conversation I had with you previously, you shared that Asian American as a community receive a lot less funding than the representation of the community in the States. Can you tell us some numbers so that we can have a strong idea of what it's like?
Sure. So APIP has been doing research since 1992. Our first report, Invisible and in Need, was published in 1992, which came up with a statistic that was startling for a lot of folks, which is that 0.2% of all philanthropic dollars goes towards Asian Americans and Pacific Islander communities. 0.2%. For some more context, that's 20 cents per $100. We've been tracking that. We tracked it from 1992. We did another report in 2007, and we're going to be releasing another report later this spring. That number has never broken 0.6%. So it's never broken 60 cents per $100 that philanthropy gives, which is startling. If you talk about representation, I think we've talked about 5 to 6% of the U.S. population identifies as Asian American or Pacific Islander or Native Hawaiian. So 20 cents per $100 isn't even close to representative. But I also want to mention that that's not entirely our goal, is to get to that $4 or $5 per $100. We have a larger goal than that with APIP.
What is that? A bigger goal?
Well, so talking about representation, if we're going to strive for $4 to $5 per $100 that's given, that's assuming that the pie never changes. That's accepting that the amount of money that philanthropy gives every year, the minimum is 5% payout for their assets. We don't think that that's necessarily good enough. We know that a lot of philanthropic dollars, in a way, can be a tax shelter for the wealthy. And like Juliet said earlier, philanthropy isn't accountable to anybody. It decides what is important and decides what's not important. And what we want to do is raise awareness about what is important, which is racial equity as a whole, which includes its impact on Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. So for us, it's about increasing the size of the pie. And if that increases the percentage to AAPI communities, so be it. But if we're increasing the size of the pie, we should be seeing the impact, positive impact in our communities.
You know, when I heard you share that statistic, it really disheartened. It sunk my heart when I hear that Asian Americans are not getting the support and advocacy that we need. So, we have to figure out how to increase that number. And I hope that APIP will be able to, make some noise and bring awareness and, help the community bring more philanthropic activities into supporting and advocating our programs. So Juliet, earlier you said that you would love to share some of your thoughts about what you do. And by the way, you work as a program officer for the Satterburg Foundation, right? Can you tell us what is in that role? What do you do? What are your roles there?
Yeah, let's talk about it. I forgot, I didn't tell y'all what I do. So what I do at Satterburg, so Satterburg is a family foundation, which means that they're a private family foundation. So the board members that are with the foundation are actually all family. They're all related to each other. So I'm one of the 6 non-staff family members. And Satterburg, they've been around since the 90s, but only up literally until 2014, they hired their first non-staff family. So I feel like Satterburg is very much like a startup kind of
non-family staff.
Non-family staff.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So they're
right. And is this related to the former prosecutor for King County?
Absolutely
Daniel?
not. Absolutely
No?
not. We are not related, and we get that question all the time.
Okay. The Satterburg
We are not associated with him.
is linked to him. Okay, all right. We are halfway into the show. You are on Rainier Avenue Radio. This is Afternoons with Monique, and I am Monique Lee, your host. And today we have the pleasure of having three philanthropist supporters who work at and in different roles, but they are members of an organization called AAPIP, which is stand for Asian American Pacific Islander in Philanthropy, short for as APIP. Brandon Hadi, who's a former Seattleite, is a regional representative, and Juliet Lee with the Satterburg Foundation here in Seattle, and John Wu with the Gates Foundation, also in Seattle. So we're back with John. John, can you tell us what your role is at the Gates Foundation, which is, I would imagine, is the biggest foundation in the world with Bill Gates and Melinda Gates supports?
Yeah, it's the largest private foundation in the world. I don't work in the programs like Juliet does. I work actually in IT, so I'm a little of an odd one out there. But I use, I focus on technology to improve the productivity of our staff so that they can further the foundation's mission. But I'm here today to represent APIP Seattle chapter as best as I can to kind of share all the work that we've been doing in APIP, and hopefully more and more people can get involved.
Right. And yeah, well, it takes all different skills to support APIP's effort, is it not? And you in IT is actually very unique, that we don't have a lot of IT help in different nonprofits. So, the fact that you are in APIP to support the program, being a co-chair, I think is wonderful. So do you know much about the different initiatives that the Gates Foundation developed? Tell us a little bit about the Gates Foundation where you work, and also about your role at APIP too, please.
Yeah, so my the Gates Foundation actually has many initiatives that Bill and Melinda really cares about. So I wouldn't be able to go through all of them, but in general, we have things that are involved in global health, global development, U.S. programs. So we're all over the board in terms of what we support around the world. And my role at APIP as the Seattle co-chair is to make sure that we represent the Seattle and Puget Sound area, and making sure that information, what's going on within this area, that information is going back to the national committee, so that we can just make sure that we're represented, and we are creating programs that support the needs in this area.
Right, right. So earlier, you shared that there is about 14 to 15% Asian American in, is it Seattle or King County or Puget Sound?
It's Seattle. It's over 14%.
Right.
From that data I last looked up.
Right. And because my show is based in Seattle, I'm keenly interested in learning about that the support that our community gets. And when Brandon said, wow, 20 cents on a dollar, and we have 14-15 representation, I'm sure that because Seattle with its rich corporations like Amazon, Microsoft, Starbucks and Costco and Boeing, that they would donate more. So is that number a little bit better in Seattle? Do you know?
Well, so back in 2017, we cross-collaborated with a few folks from these organizations through their employee resource program. So we've collaborated with the Microsoft, the Bank of America, the Nordstroms, Amazon, just to call out a few. A lot of them didn't know what was the best approach to work with philanthropies and foundations to help give bigger to that dollar that Brandon was talking about. Mm-hmm. And so when we had that first conversation back in 2017, it was just like eye-opening for us. Like, we need to work closer with these corporate organizations so that so we can make a larger giving pledge. Yeah.
Towards supporting. And since 2017 until now, have you seen those efforts follow through by these corporations?
I don't know if we have any measurements in place, but it was a start for us to have those conversations and shed some light around that area. Right. But I know that they've continued on with their giving as well. So I don't think we have like a overall measurement of all the corporate organizations that are giving.
So if I was to say, how would the community support APIP, and I know APIP support the community a great deal with your various program and advocacies. And by the way, when you do the outreach to these corporations, do you also publish some of this findings? And if people want to support or learn more about APIP and its effort, where would they go? I'll direct that question to Brandon, since you do the network for APIP.
Sure. Well, I'll just say that our website is going to be redesigned, but you can still visit apip.org and look under publications for all the research that APIP has put out. It will look vastly different and much better than it does currently. It has served us well, but it's been around since 2012, which is an accomplishment, but it's going to change drastically.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Well, that is AAPIP.org, folks. And later on, I will put that website under the comment for the show if anyone wants to go there and check it out. But Brandon, you share with me that there is a study that updated those prior two studies in 2007 and what was it, 1992?
Yeah.
Prior to that, so there is going to be a published study about grants and funding for Asian American community, publishing in the spring of 2021, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
that's right.
I would imagine that would be up there for people to see and figure out how to support the Asian American Pacific Islander community a little better. So what about during COVID, during this time? I'll direct this one to Juliet, because the only lady in the room, the other lady in the room haven't had a chance to share with us. What have you observed about philanthropic activities during COVID in the last year?
Yeah, I love that question. I've learned a lot in philanthropy. I've been in the field for about 4 years, and before coming into philanthropy, I was working at the nonprofit organizations.
Mhm.
And I learned quickly about like why is this not sustainable? How does the funding get to these organizations? And that's when I started to think, oh, like what is philanthropy? What is the funding world like? And during this time in the pandemic, the brightest thing that has shown on philanthropy is that going back to the accountability piece. Like we're not accountable to anyone. And I think philanthropy and funders have to consider how that wealth was accumulated to begin with, right? Where did the money come from? And really thinking about how do we do reparations? How do we return the money back to where it belongs? And that's in the community. And so I think that we all need to come to terms with the truth in our country and in our families to really understand the origins of wealth and not centering so much like the corporations, like what we were talking about, but like centering our communities, like how much money is actually really going to not just the API community, but the Black, Indigenous, and other people of color. It's not a lot. A majority of funding right now in philanthropy is going to white-led organizations. So how do we think about that, and how do we really make a shift to really, repair and do reparations in
Right, and advocate for minority programs as well. So we have about 1 minute, and I gotta wrap the show up. If there is any really poignant thought that you would like to share, Brandon, with the audience about how we can best support, you got about 30 seconds if you would like to share with the audience how we can support you guys in your work.
I guess I want to close with something that we're working on at APIP, which is this belief that we're not trying to do something that is just self-interest. We're not trying to move money to communities because it's going to better improve just our lives. We live in a democracy, and when everyone's able to contribute, everyone benefits, and people need the resources before that they can contribute as fully as they're capable of. And so that's what we're really fighting for, is a better society, because people are able to actively contribute in the ways that they can when they're empowered. So that's what I think that we're fighting for. And we're not just trying to get crumbs or fighting for crumbs or just trying to get our piece of the pie or anything like that. It's more than that.
It's about empowerment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on Afternoons with Monique today. Brandon, Juliet, and John, we appreciate you and all the work that you guys do to support the Asian American community, and can't wait to see you in person once COVID or quarantine is over. You're on Rainier Avenue Radio, and that is our show. Next week, we will have Professor Pepper Schwartz from the University of Washington Sociology Department, also an on-air expert for a show called Married at First Sight, which is on its 13th season after 6 years. So Professor Schwartz has been well known in the community as an expert in love and relationship experts. So we'll have her on the show, and we're very excited about that because Valentine's is just around the corner. And today is a special day to my good friend, Bill Hartberg. So I'd like to shout out, happy birthday, Bill. And that is our show. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Monique.
Thanks, Monique.
Okay.
Take care.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.